and lament the carbon footprint that's being created. I'm Michael Savage, back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Hey, our Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust for wealth insurance, gold and silver. Call 800-BUICO. Well, there's a novel idea. According to RT, Sicilian Mafia offers Big Apple protection from psychopathic ISIS. And we have a guest on who will talk about it, Giovanni Gambino, of all people. And so I ask you, look at the world we're living in under this loser in the White House. America is now rooting for an ex-KGB Russian president and an outlaw hacker group, and now probably going to root for the Sicilian Mafia as well. It makes you think you've fallen into a well. And it's all because of the zero in the White House. The absolute zero in the White House. But the question to you, the people, is how do you feel about this? We know that we have no government. We know that we have basically a mob running the country. What do you call a government that is not responsive to the people, but a gang? How do you define the difference between a government and a gang? Tell me the answer. Well, we know that a gang is only out for itself. Okay. Can you tell me that the sorority that runs this country is out for you? Okay. Number two, we know that a gang is extremely vicious. Can you tell me that the sorority is not vicious? They haven't come after political opponents in this country in the most vicious manner? So how do you define the difference between a rogue government and a gang? You tell me, because I'm looking for the answer. And because I couldn't find the answer, I spent the year writing Government Zero. And I'll tell you something. I'm not so sure that a gang wouldn't do a better job than Obama's been doing, because he seems to be not only exhibiting the worst, let us say, characteristics of a mere gang, but he's also not even protecting the people. He isn't even offering us protection. That's the point I'm trying to make. Taxes out of control. Borders broken. Language stepped on. Culture broken. Christianity snapped off the crosses. How much worse can it get? That's what the people are saying.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Everybody loves the Italians in America. Everybody loves the culture. So much has been given to this country by the Italian people. And of course, there's a subset that we know about, but we don't pay much attention to. We thought that they didn't exist. But apparently they still exist. And a man who says he's a member of that group has come forward and said they're going to wipe ISIS out off the planet in America. They will not let them attack here. And he will be on this show. But I'm asking you, is that a solution? I mean, we've accepted that Russia's doing the job that the thin man, the thin smoker in the White House won't do. May as well get him a smoking jacket. That'll be the epithet of his presidency. The man in a smoking jacket with a cigarette in his hand. That's all he does is puff, puff, puff the magic dragon. Poll just comes out. 17% of voters think prominent Muslims, including Islamic religious leaders, have stepped up to criticize terror attacks like the one in Paris. Only 17% of Americans think that enough has been said by Muslims. Have you heard any Muslims speaking out? Oh, yeah, here and there. Oh, yeah, here and there. Let me read you something. Denying the global threat. And I want you to pay attention to the word Mali on page 76. Isn't it odd how Michael Savage predicted this in Government Zero? There are Muslim wars around the world right now, including in Afghanistan, Burma, Pakistan, the Philippines, Bangladesh, India, China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Libya, Mali, Nigeria, Somalia, Algeria, Cameroon, Uganda, Chechnya, Dagestan, Russia, Iraq, Syria, Israel, and Yemen. Around the world, wherever you look, there are Muslims at war with their neighbors. Now, some people say that they're not a threat to the United States, so why should we care? They're forgetting quite a bit of history. The Muslims weren't a threat to Italy and Spain when they were still fighting other tribes around Mecca. They weren't a threat to Austria until they laid siege to Vienna and almost broke through to conquer the rest of Europe. Well, the Mongols were nobodies once, too. Do you remember learning about the Mongols in high school history class? They're a pretty good model for the modern variety of Islamic murderers. A very good comparison can be made to the Mongol conquest of the 1300s under Genghis Khan and his successors. Wherever the Mongols went, they either assimilated or massacred the local population. That's exactly what ISIS is doing now. And listen to this eerie statement written by Michael Savage. That's what they will do in France. That's what they will do here. I wrote that before this book, Government Zero, was published. And I am telling you that you have to understand that they are at war. Whether you agree we're at war doesn't matter. They're at war. France knows they're at war. England knows they're at war. The only one who doesn't is the man in the smoking jacket. I also wrote that the Charlie Hebdo murders in Paris were the advance team. They were like cockroaches sent out in a test case to see how far they could go. They got into that hall of journalism and slaughtered at will. The test went very well indeed. Despite all the braying by the sheeple of Paris, the anti-gun liberals who attack conservatives who would defend them, it looks like the sheeple are just waiting for the slaughter. They're just like the sheeple slaughtered throughout history by the Mongols and other barbarians. And just like in Nazi Germany, the Jews are the canary in the coal mine once again. Oh, I'm sorry, you probably didn't know that the people murdered in the Paris delicatessen were Jews. How could you know? The president, the smoker, described them at the time as just some folks in a deli. Do you remember that insult? As the Jewish blood went spilling in Paris, this thing in the White House said, some folks in a deli were shot in a random act of violence by some zealots. Unbelievable to me. This is what your president did. The president didn't see the perpetrators as Muslims or the victims as Jews. The victims were just folks back then in the Charlie Hebdo days. Obama's word for anyone who doesn't have an identity. When a black man is shot by a police officer, whether justified or not, he's a black man. When a Jew is murdered by an Islamic terrorist specifically because he's Jewish, he's just one of the folks, the nobodies, the people who don't matter. Islam is at war with the rest of the world, including any moderate Muslims who won't bow to the caliphate. ISIS has declared war against the United States, just as the Pasha of Tripoli did when Thomas Jefferson took office. They have captured and killed American citizens, just as the Muslim Barbary pirates did in 1800. Jefferson sent in the Marines, and that war ended in victory for America. And I'll stop right there. No, I won't stop right there. I'll go right there. One last thing. Page 77 of Government Zero, the most important book you could ever own. I wrote this, but we don't have Jefferson in the White House. We have a pedantic academic socialist who was educated in an Islamic madrasa, mentored by a black American communist leader, and married by a black liberation theology preacher who wants God to damn America. He is a president who won't even say the words Islamic or Muslim and pretends he doesn't know who ISIS is. He has a worshipful media that lets him get away with it. This is why we live in dangerous times. Civilization itself is under attack, and we don't have the knowledge, the will, or the leadership to defend it. Instead, we have progressive idiots running the country who would risk letting ISIS continue to rampage unchecked to further their own war against American values. We have a compliant media who supports them, feeding propaganda to a nation of zombies who can't do more than bay like sheep waiting for the slaughter. We need to replace a nation of zombies led by a pedantic academic socialist with a nation of patriots led by a warrior king. It's our only hope. That's all in this book, Government Zero. And I'll keep telling you, it's a book that you have to read. Now, what do you think about this idea of a gang, or a bigger thing than a gang, let's say organized crime in this case, saying they'll get a better job done than DHS? Is it a laughable idea? Is it a dangerous idea? Is it a good idea? How do you feel about that? WABC Stanley, you don't like the idea. Why not?
Well, Mike, the way I look at it is that you're inviting, like Obama trying to bring the Black Panthers in. Chicago is a disgusting thing where he came from. And what it looks like now is America looks like Chicago. He brought the filth, the slime, the disgusting, everything all across America because of his thinking. And if you bring that in, then you have Capone. When Capone got killed after World War II, we had to have Kennedy and his brother try to stop the organized crime, and they got killed. And that's a shame because of that. Well,
that's an interesting story, and I think you don't have it right. let's talk about that. Some would say the Kennedys were a gang. And if you look at the Kennedy father, you know, he was a bootlegger, right?
Yeah, right.
No, I mean, let's be clear. It's a good old American tradition. In the first generation, the blood, the money is got blood all over it. By the third generation, the blood is washed off the money. You know that. That's the American way, isn't it?
Well, that's some people.
I mean, in some sense, the big money in some ways. We all know that the Kennedy Sr. was a bootlegger, meaning a gangster, wasn't he? But he was so successful that he created his sons as politicians. That's a fact, isn't it? But you don't have to start with the Kennedys. Let's go back to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the hero of the socialist liberals. I'm the only one who seems to be repeating this because I'm a student of history. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, great progressive president. Now, his middle name, Delano, was for his maternal grandfather. Do you know how Delanos... The Delanos made their money in the good old American way. They were drug transporters. They ran the sailing ships with opium into China for the British. And that's how he made the fortune, Mr. Delano. And so now, 2 generations later, he's got a president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So this is not something brand new in American history. We're a nation steeped in guns and blood. The problem is that right now the people are afraid of the government, and we are looking anywhere we can to be protected from these throwbacks. So I don't know that I agree with you 100%. I know there's always danger working with people who are in another world like this. I don't know if that's true or not in this case. And there's another issue that I'm going to ask Mr. Gambino about, which is this. If the FBI has penetrated the mob, so-called, so efficiently, how are they going to not penetrate them when they start looking for ISIS in America? And my fear here is that this corrupt, psychotic government of ours would more quickly arrest a member of an organized crime family who wants to whack an ISIS member. They'd arrest them faster than the ISIS member. How do you like that? That's how sick this government is under the smoker in the smoking jacket. Mr. Effete walks around the world giving his speeches and does nothing except attack the American people. But how do you feel about it? Are there any women out there who have anything to say about this? Vivian, KKOB in Reno, Nevada. Vivian, how do you feel about this?
I'm absolutely for it, and I'll tell you, Sicily helped us fight against Mussolini in World War II, and also against the Germans. Sicily also wanted to become a part of the United States. And I grew up with friends, very dear friends in the Mafia. My dad wasn't in the Mafia, but he was, close with them. But I'm saying, hey, I'm for this. Get in there, let's get rid of these damn monsters. And that's all I really have to say right there.
Now, hold on, my friend Vivian. You're calling out of Reno. I won't go any further than that. I mean, just say Reno, I get images right. I'm one of the people I prefer Reno over Vegas in some ways. It's a strange little city. Reno's a beautiful city right on the edge of the mountains. But you've lived there all your life, Vivian?
Most of my life, but right now I'm living in Albuquerque. But I'd love to go back to Reno because one thing they watched is the drug dealers. Okay, these are family men that went to church every Sunday. But you got a drug dealer into the neighborhood, they'd warn them. That didn't work. They break the kneecaps. That didn't take care of it. Then you'd find them at the bottom of an abandoned mine shaft. So, I mean...
Well, Vivian, when I grew up in New York City, it was well known, very well known, it's probably still well known, that Mulberry Street, which is the heart of Little Italy, was a place where you could park your car during Christmas shopping if you went for a meal, with all your gifts in the car, and leave the doors unlocked and come back, and the gifts wouldn't be stolen, and the glass wouldn't be broken on your car, because let us say the little village, let us say, policed itself, and they did it in a way that the police can't police cities anymore because of the rats in the legal profession, and the vermin in the media, and the bleeding hearts of the NYU who run around with cameras. I'll tell you what I like to do with the camera boys from NYU, but I won't say it. It's a family show. Have you gotten a copy of Government Zero yet up there in Albuquerque?
Not yet.